Hello friends, this is Tishia from Meadows and Mortar by Tishia, and I am here on the Paint Couture page, and I'm going to show you what I did with this old chest of drawers. Now, this was a commission piece. This actually belongs to my father-in-law. His wife, it belonged, I believe, to her grandmother, but don't quote me on that. She said that they were going to throw it in the dump, and then she changed her mind, and she was like, you know, maybe you might be able to work some sort of a miracle on it. So as you can see, there was a lot of missing veneer, a lot of gouges, and so I just took some Bondo and I filled those in. Now I use two different types of Bondo. I use the regular automotive Bondo, and then that red kind right there is just the spot and glaze putty, and that's just for like smaller little scratched areas. And then after that, I just take my Surf Prep sander and then I just sand all of that smooth. Now you don't have to have a fancy sander. If you don't, that's completely fine. You can do it by hand. I would suggest starting with an 80 grit though whenever you're working with Bondo, because it's very, very strong and it's hard to sand off of there by hand. But just be careful whenever you're doing it. You don't want to take big chunks out of anything. Don't get all crazy armed and strong and remove too much from there. But you just want to smooth it all out, and then I do a scuff sand over my whole entire piece. And what this is going to do is this is just going to even everything out, smooth it out a smidge, and it's going to help my paint and my primer stick to it a little bit better. Now what you didn't see is before I did the Bondo, I cleaned it all really well with a good degreaser, and after I finished with the scuff sand, I came in and I cleaned it one more time, and then I came in with just water to rinse all of that off to make sure that I didn't have any residue on it. Now I'm coming in with Paint Couture's 2-in-1 primer, and I'm using the gray because that one's my favorite, and unless it's out of stock, that's the one that I prefer to get. And I just take a light little mist of water and I put over top of the piece, and then I just add my gray primer over top of that. Now all that that's going to do is that's just going to help it glide on a little bit better. You don't have to use the water, it's completely fine. But I live in the South, it's super, super hot outside right now. I do this in my garage, and it was just hot and sticky that day, so the water just helps it glide a little bit better for me. So you're going to put this all over the entire piece. Now this is that dark wood, and this is going to bleed a lot, so I make sure that I do 2 even coats on this to make sure that I'm not going to get any sort of bleed through. Now there is my inspiration photo. My father-in-law's wife, she said that she wanted it that sort of sage green. And so I called Katie, well, I texted Katie from Paint Couture Paint, and I was like, you know, what color would be close to this? What should I do? So she told me to mix a 50-50 mix of basil and autumn sage. And I'm just eyeballing it there just to see how it looks. And I kept pulling out my inspiration photo, looking at that paint compared to the inspiration photo, and Katie was dead on. It was pretty much a 50-50 mix, made the perfect shade that matched what she wanted. And also, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but if you find another shade of paint from another company, if you will just message Paint Couture Paint and say, hey, I really like this paint color, but I want it in your paint, can you mix it for me? And they will, as long as you know the paint name or the paint code number. But most of the time, if you just know the name of the paint and the brand, they'll mix it for you, and you can use this stinking awesome paint for you. Which is great, because if you have pieces in different brands, but you know you would like to venture over to Paint Couture Paint, then this is your perfect opportunity to do that. You can just match that coat up and get the exact same color, but be able to use it with these paints. So as you can see, I just come through and I do 1 even coat all the way across this, and then I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to come back in for my second coat. After my second coat comes in, or dries, then I come in with some dark wax. There are a bunch of brands of dark waxes out there, and I know that people are going to argue with me, and they're going to say, but wax is last, and yes, it is. It's supposed to be last, but I use such a small amount, and I buff it back so much, and I really just like the way that wax lays in on paint that's raw. But the manufacturer says not to do that. So what you should do is seal your piece first and then put your wax on if you're just wanting the wax in the accents. So I'm taking this and I'm just wanting to highlight my areas of detail. And I'm sorry I had that cut off up there at the top, but you can see what I'm doing. I just have a makeup brush. I put it on there really lightly, going over top of my accents and around the edges of it where those details are. And then I'm going to come back with a clean rag, and then I'm just going to buff it all out. and I'm just going to take back any of the excess from it. Now, whenever you're working with wax, if you take your hand and you rub across it and your hand's kind of like sticking to it a little bit, then you know that you've not buffed enough. It needs to be smooth. You need to be able to glide along there really well, or you haven't buffed enough off of there. And alternatively, what you could also use is Paint Couture's glaze in Van Dyke Brown, and that would also really richen up these details, and it would also give you that nice deep brown color around the edges of it. Unfortunately, I was out of Van Dyke Brown. That's what my intention was whenever I did this project, but I was out and I didn't realize it. I just had like a teeny tiny little smidge in the bottom of my bottle, so I couldn't make it happen, and I needed to get this out of my garage. So that's why I used the wax. But I would use Van Dyke Brown glaze, and you do the same thing. You're going to put it on there, and you're not going to put it on there really heavy. If you do get too much, you're going to wipe back a little bit of it, and it's just going to make like this little smudgy, smeary effect, and it's also going to make those details pop. So you can see the difference in what it looks like before and after I put that wax on there. Or in your case, if you decide to use the glaze, then the difference that the glaze would make. And then I come in with my favorite top coat of all time, Paint Couture's Extreme Guard in flat. And you can see where this has those details in it. I'm going with the details up and down in the cracks, in the crevices, and then at the very end, you'll see me go from left to right to really even everything out. And I'm not sure if you can tell from the video, but I'm using a very light hand. I don't have a very hard grip on my paintbrush because I'm wanting light strokes. I'm wanting it just glide across the top of my piece so that I'm not going to have any brush strokes on there. And like I said, you're not supposed to put your top coat over top of wax. I understand that. So if you would like to do by manufacturer's instructions, then put this on and then you can put your wax on over top of that. But you know, I'm a little bit of a rebel sometimes, and this is what I do. This is what works. I've never had any sort of finish fail on me from this in the 10 years or so that I've been doing it. Now, where this is in hyper speed, you can't see, but I actually put this on and then I let it dry, and then I come back probably about 3 or 4 hours later, and then I put another coat on there. And I really like to do 2 coats just to make sure that I haven't accidentally missed any areas and to just give me maximum durability. That's just my personal preference. Some people do 1, but I never recommend that, especially on a piece that's actually going to be functional. So I took the hardware off and I just soaked it in some vinegar and water. It was just 50-50 of vinegar and water, and then I got a scrub brush and I just scrubbed them. So I let these soak overnight and then I just came in and scrubbed them. But I'm going to show you guys, do you all see this hardware? So those 2 pieces are the same. These 2 round pieces are different. These 2 small pieces are different. So you can see that I have 4 different sets of hardware to go on these 8 different areas. So I'm going to come in with some aged brass gilding wax, and this one is from Redesign with Prima. There are other gilding waxes out there. There are some rub and buffs, you know, a whole bunch of different products that you can use. But I took this aged brass, and my goal was, once that it was clean, I'm just going to take it and I'm going to put it over top of all of my pieces of hardware. And whenever I put it on, then hopefully that's going to make everything look a little brighter, a little cleaner, and it's also going to make everything look more uniform. Because even though these pieces are original to the actual dresser, they're made out of different metals, and they have just worn, the patina on them has worn differently, so they don't really look like a set anymore. I mean, I know that they're not a matchy set anyways, but these are original to the piece, and I'm just wanting to make sure that they look more uniform and they look a little bit more updated. So you just lightly brush this over top and let it sit for an hour or so. Then you come back with a clean cloth and then you just buff it off, and then it will just self-seal and it's good as new. It looks just like new hardware on there. Also, are you following Paint Couture Paint over all the socials on Facebook, YouTube, all the things? Because if not, I need you to rectify that and go follow them right now. Also, if you're not following me, Meadows and Mortar by Tishia, I am mainly active on YouTube and Facebook, and I would love to have you guys follow along with me and learn new things and do new things and see new things and learn some new products. And guys, I learn from the people on my page all the time. I love for interaction, so come hang out with me. I would love to have you all. See, I told you all that it would look like a nice set together. So here is our finished product. Look how beautiful and elegant and classy this looks. And to think, she was going to throw this daggone thing in the trash dump. Can you believe that? I mean, all it needed was just a little bit of love. And now it's going to get many, many more years of use. And I am just tickled pink with this, and I hope that you guys love it too. And like I said before, if you're not following Paint Couture and me, go get on that. Can't wait to hang out with you next time, guys. Bye.